Hi, I'm Diane Wallace. Welcome to Adorama TV. I'm holding in my hands the brand new full-frame mirrorless cameras from Sony. They're the Alpha 7 and the Alpha 7R, and they're very exciting. Let me show them to you. Let's start with the basics on these cameras. They're magnesium alloy bodies, and they're weather sealed, including all of the accessories. So the lenses, the grips, everything is weather sealed, so you're good in lots of different conditions. They both have articulated LCD screens, so it gives you lots of flexibility no matter which angle you need to shoot at. It gives you 9 customizable buttons, which is a nice feature. Now these cameras both have something called eye focus, and what that does is it tracks your subject's eyes, actually the closest one to the camera, so you'll always get portraits that are tack-sharp eyes, which means it's a great portrait. You have Wi-Fi and NFC built in, and that's for both iOS or Android devices, and there are creative settings. So you can shoot in the mode that you've chosen, and the cameras will actually save 2 files, the original and the one with the creative filter, which means you can go back later and choose whichever one you want. You're not married to your decision. Okay, let's talk about some of the differences with these 2 models. The Alpha 7 is 24 megapixels, and it has both contrast and phase detection autofocus. It shoots at 5 frames per second, and this is really for your general shooters who just want great all-around technology. This is the camera you're going to grab and go everywhere with every day. The 7R is 36 megapixels. It has no low-pass filter or anti-alias coating, and it has contrast autofocus only. It shoots 3 frames per second. This camera is really built for the highest resolution possible. So no matter which camera you're using, you're really going to get superior image quality, but there's a few differences that depending on what you're shooting, you'll know which one to pick. Let's talk about video. The Alpha 7 and Alpha 7R both have some pretty impressive features. There's full HD at 60 frames per second. That's very exciting. Clean HDMI output at 422 is also a great feature. There's autofocus in both live view or through the viewfinder, and focus magnifier is available during shooting. With an extra adapter, the cameras will accept a full XLR kit, and the audio levels are adjustable while recording. All lenses have SSMs, so there's no gear noise during shooting if you're changing focus. Peaking and zebra are both available. There's even an extra grip that has 2 batteries that run consecutively, so when one runs out, it will automatically transfer to the other battery, not killing your video. Of course, there are headphone and mic jacks in the cameras. To go along with these great new cameras, there's a family of lenses that Sony is releasing. Of course, some have the famous Carl Zeiss name on them, but in the next 2 years, there'll be as many as 10 or more lenses coming, so it'll be a really nice collection. They are E-mount lenses, so they're all very fast and quiet, and Sony actually shared the specs on the mount, so now there are third parties creating adapters that let you use the lenses that you already love and own on your brand new Sony camera. Of course, there are lots of accessories for this new line, like the added battery grip we mentioned before. There's also the XLR kit, which is right here, and the shoe on the cameras is actually a smart shoe, and it actually has a terminal built in, and that's what allows the camera to communicate with the advanced accessories that are available, like the XLR kit or even pocket wizards and other advanced accessories that are coming soon. The Sony Alpha 7 and Alpha 7R are really impressive cameras. They're really slim, they're extremely lightweight. You'd easily take this with you for an entire day and not be worn out by them. They're great full-frame mirrorless cameras with lots of accessories and lots of lenses. It's an excellent system. If you'd like to learn more about these cameras, check out the Learning Center, where there's lots more information on Sony Alpha 7 and Alpha 7R. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for lots more great information on all things photography. Thanks so much for joining me.
For all the latest photography, video, and computer gear, visit Adorama.com. Place your order by 8 p.m. and it ships the same day. Plus, next time you're in New York City, be sure to visit our store located on 18th Street between 5th and 6th Avenue.
Hi, I'm Diane Wallace. Welcome to Adorama TV. Today we're talking about Samsung's new NX300. It's this little camera right here with the cool retro styling. This is their newest top-end camera. It is a 20.3 megapixel APS-C sensor. It's one of the highest resolution sensors available of this type. The NX300 has great features going for it, and specifically there are two I want to really talk about, both the built-in Wi-Fi and the hybrid autofocus. Let's start with that. The hybrid autofocus uses both phase and contrast detection technologies, so it's really quick. You can also use the screen for your focusing and for your shutter release. And you can see, I'll pull it out, it's an articulated screen. It's a 3.3-inch LCD monitor, and you can tilt it and move it, which is really helpful if you're trying to get shots overhead or down low. You can touch wherever it is that you're trying to get your focus to be. It pops right in. We saw almost no lag time in acquiring subjects. And you can even set it to trip the shutter for you. So once you touch, it pops into focus and gets your shot. The NX300 also has built-in Wi-Fi, and it's really easy to use it. All you do is push the direct link button that's right on top of the camera. How simple is that? Once you do, you'll get a screen on the back of the camera that shows you which network to use, and you'll find that network on your mobile device, your phone or your tablet. There is a Samsung app that's a free download to put on those devices so that you can easily share images back and forth. You can also share your images directly to social media. So you have a lot of flexibility in not just creating your images, but sharing them with people that you love. If you've recently purchased this camera, you'll want to make sure you're using the upgrade of the firmware, and it will provide more robust support for your Wi-Fi. The NX300 has great image quality. Now, it's going to give you excellent results, really up through ISO 3200, which is very standard for cameras in this class, but it will give you an ISO range of up to 25,600, so that's really great flexibility. You're going to see a really great increase in the quality that you get, especially in low light situations, and especially if you're moving up from a small compact or even your iPhone. Like all cameras these days, the NX300 does do video. It does full HD, but what's special about this is it actually will do full 1080p video at 60 frames per second, and that's not a common feature. It will also give you 2D and 3D photo and video capability. So if you have the new 45mm lens, it's a 2D, 3D lens, you will get amazing images that most of your friends can't get. Thanks for joining me today. Make sure you check out the Learning Center for an article on the Samsung NX300 that will give you lots more information and specific details. And also subscribe to our YouTube channel where you'll get lots more information on all things photo and video related.
Do you want great looking prints at low cost? Be sure to visit our easy to use online printing service. Adorama Pix has professionals who treat your images with the utmost care that you can count on. For a quick turnaround on photos, cards, or albums, use AdoramaPix.com.
It's the Canon EOS 5D Mark III review. Alrighty then, here at First Base we're going to talk about the Mark III's design. Now the most exciting thing on the Mark III is its new dual card slots. Here we can house an SD and CF card just like the Nikon D800. Now you notice an all-purpose lock where the live view switch used to be. There's a new live view switch at the top next to the viewfinder. This is for photo and video recording with the start-stop button embedded in the middle. Another welcome addition to the Mark III was its headphone jack. Now I could actually listen to the audio that I was monitoring in conjunction with the mic jack, which allowed for an external microphone. Now compared to the Mark II and the Nikon D800, which have 921K displays, the Mark III has a nice 3.2-inch 1,040,000 pixel display. We have a nice 100% coverage optical viewfinder, and it's a new intelligent viewfinder according to Canon. We can now see grid lines and AF points on the viewfinder. However, I noticed one thing. The vertical horizontal meter that can be viewed on the LCD screen cannot be viewed on the viewfinder, and you can actually do that on the Nikon D800. The Canon EOS 5D Mark III also lacks a pop-up flash, which is something offered by the D800. Another new addition right next to the shutter button is a function button. This actually dictates the focus area selection points, but it can be customized to other things as well. Now you notice that Canon got rid of the creative auto mode, which is fine because nobody really ever used it. And for navigation, we have the same quick control dial, main dial, and 8-way multi-controller. Now I love the dials on the Mark III just like I did on the Mark II. However, I really would have taken Nikon's 8-way directional pad found on the D700 and D800 over Canon's multi-controller any day. Now back to terminals, we have your typical flash sync, we have your remote, we've got a USB, however we have HDMI out. This HDMI out is not clean like the D800s. That's a big factor if you're a video guy or girl. Now the Mark III really hasn't put much weight on, it's about the same weight as the Mark II. It's just a few ounces lighter than the D800. However, it's still a cinder block when you put a giant lens on. Now there's one last thing to talk about, and that's the Mark III's battery. This uses the same battery as the Mark II, and that's huge because the Nikon D800 uses a brand new pack when compared to the D700. That means you can take old Mark II batteries and throw them in the Mark III. So overall, the EOS 5D Mark III has an improved design. Here we are at second base talking about the Canon EOS 5D Mark III's features, and we're going to start with focus. Usually with new models, camera makers tack a few extra focus features to the tool belt. But not Canon. They want gangbusters on the Mark III's AF options. In fact, the autofocus features are so extensive on the Mark III, I could do an entirely separate review on just that alone, so I'm going to be really brief in this review. Go to the full review on technobuffalo.com for all of my AF findings. As you can see, AF has its own dedicated tab in the Mark III menu, and it's 5 pages long. We'll start with the Mark III's cases, or presets. These are for things like subjects entering the frame or erratically moving subjects. They can all be fine-tuned by different levels of tracking sensitivity, accelerating, decelerating sensitivity, and AF point auto switch. I used the versatile multi-purpose for most scenarios, and that really did the trick. However, we did do a go-karting shoot, and I used the subjects entering preset. That worked pretty well. But that's not all. You could also adjust the release versus shutter priority, which is basically speed versus accuracy. The camera will not take a picture unless it's focused when you have focus priority, and it will just snap away if it's in release priority just to get the shot off. Now the Mark III has 61 AF points compared to the D800's 51 points. There are up to 41 cross-type sensors depending on which aperture you're in, and for the most part this camera did an amazing job autofocusing. Now video mode is a different story on the 5D Mark III. Unlike the D800, which has full-time autofocus in video mode, the Mark III doesn't have that. In fact, you can't even refocus by pressing the shutter button halfway while you're recording a video. You have to focus first, then record. So for pretty much every focusing application in video mode, stick with manual. Thanks to its new sensor, the 5D Mark III can reach an ISO ceiling of 102,400, which is just astronomically high. This trumps the Nikon D800 and the 5D Mark II, which have 25,600 caps. Like the Mark II, the Mark III has a 30-second to 1/8,000th second shutter speed with a bulb mode. It has a 63-zone metering system that measures the luminosity around AF points, and I was highly impressed with the results and the exposure I got with shooting in program auto mode. This camera exposes wonderfully. It's not afraid to shoot up the ISO because the sensitivity is so great. Now another cool thing on the Mark III is its HDR mode. Not only could you shoot HDR images with this camera, you could apply artistic filters like bold, vivid, embossed, things like that. And the results are amazing because you're shooting with a full frame camera and there's really no need to go into Photoshop. The art effects also translated over to multiple exposures. You could take up to 9 images and blend them together with artistic effects, and we have exposure bracketing up to 7 images at a time. But the Nikon D800 can do 9 images, so that's something to consider. The 5D Mark III is an exceedingly fast camera. This camera can do a 6 frames per second burst rate. That doesn't seem as fast, but when you compare it to the Nikon D800's 4 frames per second, it does factor in. The reason for the Mark III's speed is its new processing. Not only was I able to rifle through menu options, but I could scroll through pictures like it was a flip book. It was that fast. Also, there was no need to wait for the recording time after I took a long exposure shot. After 30 seconds, the camera immediately displayed the image. In most cases, I have to wait another 30 seconds for the image to store and process. So this camera is so fast. For video mode, our ISO cap was 25,600. Audio level fine-tuning was excellent. I had 64 different points that I could adjust the decibel level to, and I could use timecode. So the Canon EOS 5D Mark III is excellent when it comes to features. Here at third base, we're going to talk about the Canon EOS 5D Mark III's image quality. Canon equipped the Mark III with a new 22.3 megapixel full-frame CMOS sensor with the company's new Digic 5 Plus image processing. Now let's consider one thing right now. The D800 has 36 megapixels of full-frame Fury, which means the Mark III only has 2/3 of that resolution. Therefore, if you're considering a medium format camera, the D800 might be a viable alternative. Canon jazzed up the video on the Mark III. This camera now records 1080p 30 and 24 frames per second and 720p 60, to name a few. We can also record now in all-I or IPB compression, similar to pro camcorders. All-I means less compression, bigger file sizes. IPB, smaller file sizes, more compression. Files are recorded as H.264 MPEG-4s in the AVC codec. Now for still image quality. I shot in a myriad of environments including fast action go-karting, late night miniature golfing, and a full wedding. What I found with the 5D Mark III is that it's a magic maker. Its high ISO performance is astounding. I was comfortable at 12,800 and even 25,600 in certain instances. However, I would stay away from 51,200 and 102,400 because those images are pretty noisy. Now when it came to RAW versus JPEG quality, it was the classic tale. The colors and the clarity with the RAW images were much better. When it came down to still image quality, it really was all about brand preference. Canon versus Nikon, you know who you are. Now in video mode, I got the same excellent high ISO performance that I got in still image mode. I preferred the high ISO performance and the low light sensitivity to the Nikon D800s. I was able to illuminate a lot more dark places with this camera in my hand. So in video mode, the Mark III was better than the D800 in low light. However, I noticed that Nikon videos had better dynamic range than the Canon did. And one thing that both cameras shared that I'm really not excited about talking about was the gelatinous blob on the go rolling shutter. In terms of the Mark III's audio, it has a built-in stereo microphone. It was okay, so I recommend using something like a Rode stereo video mic via the 3.5mm audio jack. Now when you do that, you'll notice that unfortunately DSLRs hype the blanket noise in the background. The Nikon D800 did the same thing, so there's no real difference. If you're serious about audio with the Mark III, get a Beach Tech XLR grip. But overall video, I would actually give the edge to the Mark III over the D800. Now it's time to slide into home with the Buffalo Call on the Canon EOS 5D Mark III. Undoubtedly, this is one of the best full-frame DSLRs on the market, but the big question comes down to the difference between the D800 and the 5D Mark III. And I think the answer is brand loyalty.
Hello, welcome to Pictureline. My name is Nick. Today we're taking a look at the new Nikon One camera system. This is a new system designed from the ground up with the new larger sensor size. They're calling the CX format, larger than a point-and-shoot camera. This is going to be a system that is a smaller compact camera that has interchangeable lenses. Taking the lens off, you can see the sensor exposed right there. Beautiful lens mount and great looking lenses too. The camera system is really clever. There's two cameras that they have, the J1 and the V1, that both will be available at launch. The really neat thing I first noticed when I first picked this up, the lens is retracted into a compact position for storing and traveling with a little lock. As soon as you release the lens into the open position, camera automatically starts up, so it's not it kind of eliminates one step, gets you shooting very quickly, which is pretty clever. The J1 is going to be the smaller, perhaps maybe more consumer-based version of the two cameras. It is going to be available in 5 different colors. We've got the white color here, which has turned out to be a staff favorite over here at the store. We think this will be a big hit. Available in 5 different colors and matching lenses. You'll have, if you got a white camera, you can get a white lens, which is really neat. But the J1 is going to be is designed very well. You've got it's a camera that does not feel too big, but it certainly doesn't feel too small that you don't have a substantial hold on the camera. All the controls are right at your fingertips where you want them, very ergonomic in design. And it also has a delightful pop-up flash that we thought was real fun. The key differences between the J1 and the V1 will be the V1 rather is going to have a viewfinder, an electronic viewfinder, in addition to the 3-inch LCD on the back, as well as an accessory port to the side. This will allow for flashes that Nikon is developing for these, as well as GPS units and several things to come, we're told. Both cameras boast the same 10 megapixel sensor, 3200 ISO, so low light capabilities, pretty substantial for a smaller camera system like this. I've got to tell you, the V1, the display in the viewfinder, the electronic viewfinder, is incredible. It first of all has a proximity sensor, so as soon as your eye is raised to the viewfinder, shuts off the LCD and puts everything and all the information into the viewfinder itself. But looking through the camera, you get instantaneous feedback. There doesn't seem to be any of that drag or delay that you see typically on electronic viewfinders. It's just a very high refresh rate. And both cameras are just exceptionally well put together. It is a great little system that we're really excited about. We think the public will really grasp onto this. I think there's a lot of people that would fit the bill for this type of a camera. Want the extra performance of a larger sensor, want the capability of interchangeable lenses, which we will have 4 of at launch. The standard 10 to 30 millimeter zoom will be the standard zoom lens. There's going to be a telephoto lens, a powered zoom lens that will be used primarily for video and give you a lot of clean flexibility for video functions, and a very fast 2.8 prime lens, a 10 millimeter prime lens, which would be the equivalent of a 27 millimeter lens. When Nikon boasts world's fastest autofocus system with these cameras, it's when it was used with that 10 millimeter 2.8 prime, and it shows. It's a very responsive camera, very fast, ergonomic, great design. We're thrilled to have them here and would love to share any and all information we can with you. If you have any questions, you can come to the store here at Pictureline or get on our website. And that's the new Nikon 1 system.